When Patrik Laine broke into the league, you'd be lucky to see 20 players hit even 30 goals. Well, right out of the 2016 draft, the second overall pick had 36 goals as a rookie. In the 20th century, that is the fourth most ever by a first year. I mean, look at those names and Michael Grabner he's contending with. But what made his career stand out from the get-go was not only the goals and the skill, it was how young he was. Through the first 2 full regular seasons of his NHL career, he was a teenager. You probably know where this is going. Every single player that makes the NHL, even for one game, is an insanely skilled and dedicated athlete that schmucks like you or me can't even fathom. Patrik Laine spent 237 games there before he was legally allowed to imbibe alcohol. He has the third most goals by a teenager in NHL history. Of all the players in the NHL who have played games as practically a baby, he scored more than all but 2 of them. This also implies how much raw talent he had to be able to not only show up, not only be competitive, but also put up those kinds of numbers. And if you change the metric to adjusted goals, which factors in league averages by era, he has the most by a teenager ever. For teenagers, he is second all-time in offensive point shares, which is a theoretical model calculating how many standings points a player contributed from their offensive output. I could go on, but I think the point's been proven that Laine's teenage form was a more NHL-ready specimen than most any human being at that age there has ever been. There are so many other smaller records that Laine holds that maybe aren't front of mind to the wider NHL audience, like being the fastest Jet or Thrasher to hit 100 goals. At 20 years and 224 days, he was the 4th youngest player to get 100, and of course, the most goals by a rookie in the same franchise. While he didn't lead Winnipeg in goals outright during his time there, he only played 1 game for them in the 2020-21 season, while all these other guys played the full season. So if you cut out that 1 year, and thus that 1 game, in which, of course, he scored 2 goals, you get this. And to add to how impressive this all is, he wasn't given top-line minutes outside of 2020. He was most widely used as a situational top 6 forward, as evidenced by the highly esteemed company he kept in his teenage season at the top of the league in goals per 60. If he got top-line ice time, there's a good possibility that we'd see him go from 3rd in teenager goals all time to 1st. Now obviously there should be an asterisk next to Auston Matthews, who was the only player drafted before Laine in 2016. Matthews was actually 19 when his rookie season started, but even if you look at both Draft Plus 1 and Draft Plus 2 seasons, Laine has more goals and points than Matthews anyway. In terms of head-to-head one-upsmanship, there was that great moment where 1st overall Matthews and 2nd overall Laine had back-to-back rushes in overtime. Guess which of them scored? It would be impressive enough to be a league leader when you're 25, 26, but again, he did it all as a teenager. Then coach of the Jets, Paul Maurice, sung Laine's praises to the media, and Paul Maurice isn't going to BS anybody. If some other superstars' first seasons was when they were 18, like Laine, instead of whenever it actually was, I'm not so sure they would have done as well as they did in their first seasons in this reality. Alex Ovechkin, the greatest goal scorer of all time, did outscore Laine in his first 2 seasons, but due to a September birthday and the loss of the 04-05 season, when he first stepped onto the ice for his first NHL game, he was 20. If he had played in the league in 2005 at 19, would he still have hit around 50 goals? Say, maybe 42? Who knows? But we do know that Laine was able to keep a generational pace at a gestational age. Traded to Columbus in 2021, he didn't lead the team in goals outright again, but only because he kept missing time due to healthy scratches and injuries. But in the games he did play, he was more likely to score than any of his teammates. He was in the top 3 of goals per 60 every season he was in Columbus. No other teammate spent every year even in the top 5. Now, Columbus was not a very good team during any of these years, but the point still stands. He's a cut above the rest in this regard, easily. And though we never saw him at his full potential in Columbus, for basically every season on an 82-game pace, you could bank on him getting a solid 30 goals and 75 points most every season. If this demonstrates anything, it should be how robbed we've been of getting to see a healthy, full-time Patrik Laine in the last few years. Best in goals per 60 in one injury-shortened season could be a fluke, but staying up there for 7 years? He's the real deal. If he had more games and or more ice time, he'd get more recognition, in the ballpark of what he deserves. People understandably are concerned that injuries will hobble his ice time and shorten his career. But I hope the point pace he's kept up in the difficult environment he was in demonstrates that he's still very much got it. I think, and I hope, that on a new team, where he can really get top-line ice time, and in an environment conducive to his well-being, he'll be right back to giving goalies the what for. A very special thank you to all of my patrons, especially Connor Grindstaff, Amazing Kook 143, Eric Sheldon, Ethan Johnson, Infernos Gaiman. It's me, Kowalski, Jacob Keefe, Jules, Nate, Pierre O'Connor, Pylon Zinn, Steely Dan 32, and Stuckmund.